Welcome back to the Relationship Mentors podcast. I am your host, Mia, and this is our other host, Charlie. And today we are going to go over the 4 phases you need to move through within your relationship. We're also going to go over the subtle green flags that will let you know that you have found the one. And we're also going to go over what happens when your partner doesn't see or appreciate your efforts.
Juicy one today.
I know. So before we get into it, we normally do a little catch up from the week. However, Charlie thought it would be a really cute idea for us to actually go over the story on how we met.
Yeah, so how did we meet? We are from very different places. I'm from Wales in the UK, about 16,000 kilometers away from here.
Yeah.
And Mia's from a country town in Australia. Well, I'm from a country town in Wales. Mia's from a country town in Australia, born the other side of the world. And we somehow ended up together. We started a business together. We're doing life together. And it's amazing the synchronicities on how that happened. So
100%.
Yeah, I moved over from the UK to Australia about 4 years ago when I was 23 years old, I think. And yeah, just experiencing life in Australia, doing different things, working construction, just anything to get my visa. I wanted to stay in this country. I wanted to life different than life in the UK. And then eventually started getting into circles where they were talking about entrepreneurship, personal development, building a business, building a brand, social media stuff. And I just delved into that and really built my brand up and got into this space. And then through doing that, I started seeing more and more content around that on my social media, especially my ads. So one day, Mia Cherry rocked up on my Instagram page in an ad. So she used to work for a marketing agency and they were running an ad where Mia was talking about scaling this company from 30 grand a month to 200 grand a month. And I was like, fuck, that's pretty hot. Like I put her in the pretty girl category.
Yeah.
But also having that behind you is really, really cool. So I didn't do anything about it. And then I kept seeing the ad like 5, 6, 7 times, always in my face. I'm like, damn, this girl won't go away. So I went over to their Instagram page and searched your name, found you. And then I didn't message you for like 2 weeks because I was watching your stories to see like what sort of person you were. What were your daily things? Did you go out drinking every weekend? Like, if so, you weren't the person for me.
You were just seeing if my values aligned with the values that I posted online, aligned with some of your values.
Yeah, exactly. Like what you were posting. If you were posting thirst trap pictures and getting drunk every weekend and doing all this stuff, then obviously you weren't the person for me. But what I saw, I was like, cool, she qualifies, so I'll slide in the DMs.
I don't know if I was really posting that much. I think at that time of my life, I was really just focused on the 9 to 5 job that I had. And I was just resharing everything else, like what other people were posting, which were probably just my work colleagues, and we were doing like work meetings and things like that. So,
yeah. So then I slid in the DMs. What happened after that?
Then on my end, I saw it was quite a thoughtful message. Like it wasn't just a slide in on how you doing. It was like, again, just messaging about like my work.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I wasn't really looking for anyone, and I was just excited to be focusing on work. And then since I think your message, like, saw you started following me, I was like, oh, this guy's cute. And then the fact that you addressed like seeing the ads every single day, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool that someone that's seeing the ads is now found my personal Instagram account and messaging me. So I think you didn't come across as a creepy guy.
I'm glad you saw it as cute, not creepy.
Yeah, 100%. And then so that just then initiated me to actually want to respond, because normally I would just see the message back then anyway and not feel a need to respond to other messages for people that I didn't know. And then from there, you just started the conversation straight away. Like you continued the conversation really well, and straight away within the first 2 messages, you had already organized for us to go out on a date that same week.
Yeah.
And since it was so, like, I didn't really enjoy texting back and forth, that the fact that you were straight to the point of like, okay, you wanted us to catch up and go out on a date.
Yeah.
It's happening this week. Then that just
I knew what I wanted.
Yeah,
went after it.
Knew what you wanted, went after it, and that actually made me like, okay, yep, I'd love to do that. That sounds great this time. And then you organized the rest from there. And then since we had already agreed that we were seeing each other at a certain time that week, it then encouraged me to actually respond to all the rest of the messages throughout the week, where I believe like my type of personality, if you just continued to have a conversation with me throughout the week without us
bored.
Yeah, it's like I always love to meet someone in person, to get their personality, to get their vibe, phone calls, things like that. So texting back and forth really isn't my forte. Like that texting back and forth is not how I like to connect with people. Like with clients, it's a different story because we're like on coaching calls with them.
Yeah.
However, yes, like there's no way you're going to fully get to know someone if you're just messaging them. So you handled that really well.
Yeah, so we started messaging on a Tuesday, I think, and then we went on a date on a Friday.
Yeah, it was
So
like
it was literally 3
Tuesday.
days.
Yeah, Tuesday night we sent, like it was in the evening, and I went to bed pretty early, so it was like 6 o'clock or something, and then we messaged back and forth, like literally only a couple of messages.
Yeah.
In that time, it was like, hey, let's go out on a date, confirm the date, and it's like 5 messages back and forth within like an hour and a half or something like that.
Yeah.
And then that Friday, we went on a date.
Amazing. And we had a first date, and it was really fun, and then really connected, and just get that feeling that that person's the one.
Yeah.
Which is really, really cool. So yeah, we had a fun first date, and then continued seeing each other.
Yeah. My favorite thing about you, very much so, was the fact that you always organized the next date. It's like you always, like on the first date, you already started saying all these other date ideas that you were wanting to do together, and it just helped me get more certainty that you were wanting to see me again. On the first date, I didn't know if you were just like small talk, like, oh, we could do this together or do this together. And then as the dates went on, I realized that you were genuinely talking about we should actually do this together. And so that just gave me a lot of certainty, because every time I not only spoke to you but also caught up with you, you were always so like intrigued to get to know me more, as well as initiating the next time we're going to see each other.
Yeah, in the early stages of dating, it's so vital that you don't play games with the other person. Like when you do that, it just sets you off on such a bad foundation if you're going to carry on with that person. Like so many people just go on dating apps just to get validation, no real want to meet anyone. But when you can actually go on there with intention to meet someone, and you show up and you actually talk to that person and you don't play games and you're straight up, then that's how you're going to find someone that also isn't playing games.
Yeah,
but when you play
100%.
games, you're just going to attract the worst types of people. But when you can be true, when you can be confident, when you can know what you want, when you go after what you want, that's when you'll actually find someone you really like.
You see all these videos on like social media, like do these like 5
Like
things.
texting tips.
Yeah, texting tips, or like do these things
Approaching coaching.
to get him to like make him obsessed with you, and all of them are just like little games to play in the courting phase. However, in reality, it's like the thing that stood out the most with you was the fact that he didn't play any games, and it was so upfront, like that I knew what you were wanting. You were wanting to see each other in person and go out on a date, and that was said within the first couple of minutes, like first couple of text messages. And that just gave me certainty on where it's going. Otherwise, it's just like another person sliding into your DMs and you have no idea what their intentions are, if anything's going to come out of it. Is the other person just wanting attention of a response, you know?
And so funny, on our first date, we went to a restaurant that's right like 100 meters away from where we live together now. And we walked directly past where we live right now. And we do the same walk most days now, across to the beach, across the front. And it's like, we did this on our first date and now we live together. And we walked past the house where we were going to live together.
Yeah, so it's
that's
like
really cool.
On our first date, we went to the restaurant, and then after we finished food, we were like, let's go to the beach. And then that path from the restaurant to the beach is the exact same path that we take every single day now to the beach.
Super cute.
So,
and the rest is history. And we've been in a relationship almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
And we've definitely moved through different phases in the relationship, and things have changed over that time. And I think it's something that people really need to be aware of. Like, it's not always going to feel the same as it did in the start. Like, you get to keep the same things. You get to do certain things the same. But feelings are going to change. There's more certainty. You see the other person naked 1,000 times. It's not going to be the same as the first time. So it's really important that you ride the waves. You take a look at the relationship from a wider perspective, rather than seeing the nitty gritty of every day as like, oh, we're arguing now, we're doing this now. Sometimes it feels boring. It's like, cool, that's part of the journey as well. It's really important to actually zone out of that, right?
exactly. Like, it helps when you move through the phases, it helps create a whole nother level of depth within the relationship. Because it's like with our first dates, I felt like we were so connected and we spoke about so much and we saw each other. To add more to the other story is that you always organized a date within like 3 or 4 days of each other. So it was like quite really consistent of us seeing each other, which I really, really loved.
Keep you warm.
Yeah. And like in that time we spoke so much and I feel like we got to know each other so much. And then when we moved in together and we moved through the next phase of the relationship, we got to go to a whole another level of depth that we didn't even realize was there. And then that was within like 3 months, let alone the growth that we had when we were traveling together, and that we've really moved through all the phases now.
Yeah.
And there's always such another level of depth that we didn't even realize was there before. Because if you would have asked us in the first phase that we were in within our relationship, we're like, we know each other so much, like we've gone to the depths of the depths together. And then you realize, oh, there's like a whole other 3 phases that we can move through in our relationship. And it unlocks a whole nother level of depth that you like even realize was there before.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And when people are in that honeymoon phase, in that first phase where there's so much excitement every time you see them, every time you get a message off them, you make effort, you go on date nights, you're probably having a lot of sex, everything's easy, you're not really arguing, there's not much triggers there. It's like it feels so easy, right? But then things start to change slowly, especially when people move in together. And then you start to see their whole self, like all their little mannerisms, even the way they wash up, even the way they take the bins out, even the way they make the bed, even the way where they put their toothbrush. There is thousands of little things that you have to take on when you move in together, right?
Yeah, because there's a aspect of like we did see each other a lot when we lived in our separate houses or apartments. And when we got to see each other, we were coming in with the excitement, and even that we would spend a few hours together or the night together or like the few days together, we still had this, there could be still a persona, or like you're always wanting to put your best foot forward, or like really making the most of that time you spend together before you go back to your separate house. However, once you live together, it's just they're seeing the best of the best and the worst of the worst, and knowing that your partner loves you through that. And
I think it's the frequency as well, like seeing each other all the time. It can quickly become a commodity almost.
Yeah.
If you're not aware of that, you can make your partner such a commodity because they're always there, right? It's like you don't prioritize date nights because we can just do it tomorrow because we live together. We can just put that off. But when you live separately, you have to organize your life. You have to be intentional. Like, hey, what are you doing Thursday night? Do you want to do this? Yeah, cool. But when you live together, a lot of times that can go astray, can't it?
Yeah, because even in the courting, not even the courting phase, but just organizing when you're going to go to the other person's house, it's like...
Yeah, you have to be organized.
Yeah, it's like you asking, like, oh, what are you doing tomorrow? Do you want to come over and like go to the markets together or something like that? When you live together, you don't have that urgency because we just know, oh, this afternoon, if you want to do something, I'm already going to be here. Tomorrow, I'm already going to be here. That there's no urgency of needing to organize that. Where then in the earlier stages of the relationship, we probably enjoyed that in those moments, made it feel special. But now that we're living together, there's other things that make it special.
Yeah. And I was speaking to a client yesterday, and their relationship felt so boring and lifeless, and they weren't getting the quality time. They were just roommates basically living together. And it's like you need that structure and that intention to your relationship in order to make it work, to keep it exciting. And so many people just get lazy. They don't prioritize things. Like bad things happen slowly over time. A lot of the time when people have divorces, it's hardly ever about the big thing. It doesn't just randomly like one person cheats on the other person. One person decides to up and leave. There's always loads of little signs that add up to that point. Trust gets broken in so many little ways, which leads up to that point. So it's so important to stay on top of things and not let your relationship become so lazy, become so reactive almost. Like a lot of people don't do anything about their relationship until it becomes really, really bad.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I really want to push, because when I speak to people in the DMs and they want to come do work, but they're like, oh, but it's okay. Like my partner and I are okay. We hardly speak to each other. We're this, we're that, labeling all these problems, but the pain's not bad enough yet to do something about it.
It's just a terrible way it's such a terrible way to live your relationship and have your relationship. Yet I believe so many people have normalized it that they don't see it almost as an issue. Where I'm like, in the courting phase or in the honeymoon phase, which is the first phase that you move through in your relationship, you put in so much effort to get to know the other person. You put in so much effort to even see the other person and organize your next date. However, then they just assume since they're in a relationship, they're not growing more than that. They believe that since they live in the same house, they're not having to organize.
Don't have to put as much effort in.
Yeah, they don't realize is to just even have the courtesy to ask your partner to still get to know them, because every day you're growing as a person individually. I'm growing as a person individually, and it's still important that we're connecting with each other and asking each other questions, so we're re-meeting each other with the new versions that we are every day.
Yeah, every day. And in the first phase, people think I put in a lot of effort because I have to win the other person. I'm putting on my best front. I'm making the effort. I'm showing up the best I can so that I can win that other person. And a lot of time, 6 months down the line, a year down the line, when they feel like they've fully won that person, then they can drop the effort level, right?
Yeah.
They think, yep, I've already got the other person. I don't have to try as much now. That's like going to the gym, getting a six-pack, getting in shape, and be like, cool, I've got a six-pack. I no longer have to go to the gym. Like, you're just going to go get fat again, or you're just going to get skinny again. Like, you need to continuously make effort in your relationship. Otherwise, you're just going to fall into disaster, basically. There's a word called entropy, which is like the gradual, invisible demise into unorder.
Okay.
And it happens in so many relationships when they, like I always say, improvement is often invisible, but so is getting worse. A lot of people get worse day by day, slowly. And it's like looking in the mirror and aging. You don't notice yourself age, but if you look back over 4 years, you'd be like, wow, I have aged.
They always talk about that 1%. Hey, it's like 1%, every day you're either moving 1% forward in a certain area of life, or if you're not doing anything, you are moving that 1% backwards.
Yeah, and
So
that
it's
1%
like
every day.
100%. And it has such a massive compound effect. And that's what people know when they have a habit. It's a compound effect. Like if I drink a liter of water today, I may want to drink more water the next day, and that builds that compound effect. That compound effect goes in every single area of life, and it also goes into the area of your relationships. Like the way that I greet you when you come home, the way that you make me feel important when I come to you with a question or whatever it is. It's like that 1%, the compound effect of that every single day in every single conversation that we have. It's building on top of that. So if you're having a conversation with your partner and you dismiss them, imagine what that compound effect is going to create in a week's time, a month's time, or a year's time.
Yeah, it's so invisible and it builds so fast, right? People always say, how do I improve my relationships? It's not big things, it's thousands of little things.
Yeah.
It's when your partner expresses themselves to you, and do you get defensive, do you get reactive, or do you actually hold space for the other person, hear the other person, work through that? Do you turn towards your partner, answer their bids for connection? What do you do first thing in the morning? Do you check your phone, or do you say good morning to your partner? Do you let your partner know where you are? Do you ask them about their day? Do you understand their needs? There is thousands of little things that can make your relationship great. And that's why we're so passionate about putting this all into online education for couples to actually learn those skills, right?
100%. Are we going to go into the exact 4 phases of the relationship?
Yeah, cool.
So, is that
Yeah,
cool?
go for it.
Excellent. So the first phase, as we mentioned, is the honeymoon phase. So what that would look like is what most people go into, which is the courting phase, when it's exciting to get to know the other person. At this point, it's almost the excitement of the potential of the other person. Since you don't know them yet, it's the idolized version that you created in your head of what they possibly could bring to your life or your relationship, or the possibility of who they could be. And that's why it's so exciting, because there's still so much potential out there.
So much unknown.
So much
it's
unknown.
Like such a motivation to get to know the other person.
It's like that exciting, that new dynamic, because the way that you interact with them, with the new person in your life, that dynamic in itself is exciting and can be fun and liberating and all that good stuff. And then we'll go into the phase 2. So I think if we just go into the phases and explain what they look like.
Yeah, so after the honeymoon phase, when things start to feel a bit of the same, or things start to feel different from the honeymoon phase, maybe it's a bit more boring, maybe you're not making time for each other, maybe you're going on less date nights, you're probably having less sex, life's getting in the way, you start triggering each other, you start arguing with each other, just life gets in the way, you know? And this is called the comfort phase within a relationship. It's when the honeymoon phase begins to die, and then life just catches up, and your relationship has to deal with life straight on. Like two individuals coming into a relationship, you have to figure that out. The initial high of the dopamine and the oxytocin and the serotonin, like that starts to wear off after a little bit. And what are you left with? You're left with the raw materials of two separate people making this relationship work. And it's really, really important through that phase to take an outside look and be like, cool, I'm choosing to grow through this and actually step into phase number 3.
Yes, and then just, we have mentioned on one of the other podcasts, is how so many relationships go from the honeymoon phase of the excitement and the potential of who that person could be, and the courting phase, then they move into the comfort phase where they just stop doing a lot of things that actually
made the relationship great.
Made the relationship great, made the other person feel loved, things like that. And then you just keep going into a cycle of feeling comfort, and then they realize that the comfort, if you're not doing the right things, is starting to create a shitty relationship. And so they end off that relationship chasing that new high that they had at the beginning when they were actually putting in all the effort to get to know the other person. So it's like once they get to the comfort phase and start doing all the actionable tools that we provide in our conflict codes program and through our mentorships, that they are actually to move into stage 3.
Amazing. Yeah. You want to go in phase 3?
Yeah, you can go in.
Cool. So phase number 3 is the healing and growth phase. And this is really making a decision to actually grow in your relationship, to be committed, to work through things, to see your triggers, to start to understand the other person, to hold space for the other person. It's you being in the comfort phase of the triggers and stuff, and then being like, we can go through this, we can grow through this, we can become better, we can understand each other more, we can help each other love ourselves more, we can see all sides of you. The walls start to come down. You don't feel the need to defend yourself anymore. Like this healing growth phase is so, so powerful when you actually decide to work through your stuff, when you actually decide to get help, maybe like seek information, seek advice online. It's so important for couples. If they know there's a strong bond there, but maybe things are getting in the way, just know it's a decision to fully step into that growth. And then it's up to you to be resourceful. Go out, find help, find support, find this information on how to actually grow through your relationship so you can move through that third phase of that healing and growth. And it gets to be a beautiful journey, right?
100%, because they say when you're in such a close proximity with your partner, they are your greatest mirror. They are going to show you all the things that you have been hiding from yourself, all of your own triggers, anything that you weren't wanting to face within yourself. They're going to be able to mirror that back to you, even very much unintended, like not on purpose. It's just naturally what occurs in the relationship. And it's then when you're able to recognize that, to then actually be like, okay, we can create all of this and empower our relationships by actually just learning the tools and accepting where we are currently at within the relationship, and accepting also having a shared goal of where we want it to be. And then it's going out and humbling your ego enough to be like, okay, there's tools out there that we can actually bring in and utilize to make this relationship even better. Yeah,
that healing and growth is really choosing that you're a team. That you're a team through this. In the comfort phase and the honeymoon phase, you're two individuals. And in the healing growth phase, phase number 3, it's so important that you're actually a team. Like you decide what's best for the relationship, not yourself. It's when your desire for connection is stronger than your desire to be right. The egos start to drop away, you stop feeling the need to defend yourself, and you actually decide to be a team through this.
And that's such a massive phase in the sense, because it's so easy and well and good for us to say that right now. But when you're in the heat of the moment, sometimes those conversations, and they can get hard.
Yeah.
It's like it
when
can
you're
be
in the moment.
Yeah, it's like you can start having really heated conversations and arguments and conflict, and it's like things that really make you uncomfortable potentially because you've never addressed it before. Like, yes, it's so well and easy to say all that right now. It's like when you're in the actual grit of it, and like in that argument with your partner, or your partner's come to you, he's saying that like they've noticed that you've been doing X, Y, and Z, and you feel really like seen, I would say, but seen that you're terrified that you didn't realize anyone would notice that about you, or they've been trying to hide that about themselves for so many years, that it's in those moments when you can either choose to be a team and work through it together, or run away and not face it. Yeah, not face it. So it's like when you're actually in the heat of the moment, it's like, what do you choose to do? And it's such a great tool to turn into a habit of going in, like turning towards the team, because that is a skill that you need to develop. Sometimes, like I know for me, it was not a natural thing within our relationship for me to turn to Charlie. It was like, it was constantly Charlie in those moments. You always thought you
had to fight your own battles.
Yeah, I was very independent in the fact of, I've got myself through to this point in my life by myself. I can keep making it through. And I just thought life was about making it through on my own.
And you had to be strong and you couldn't lean on anyone else.
Yeah, very much so. And it wasn't until like Charlie, every time a conflict would come up, or like he would see my shadow sides, or really like not come at me, but address something, and my ego would feel attacked.
So threatened.
Threatened, and it was just my ego in play. And it was always Charlie that was reminding me, come back to the team, like showing me that it was a team dynamic and showing me that it's safe to come back and lean on the team. Yeah. So it was like constantly bringing that in. It's like you showed me how safe it was for us to lean together.
Your relationship gets to be the biggest form of personal development for yourself. And this is where it happens in phase number 3. Where you're choosing the team, you're choosing to work through your stuff. When your partner pisses you off so much, when they're so dumb and they don't realize this stuff, or when your girlfriend's so sensitive, it's like, what's your partner trying to teach you in this moment? If you're feeling impatient, maybe you need to work on your patience. If you feel like your girlfriend's too sensitive, it's like, maybe you need to work on your emotional intelligence to actually work through that stuff. Your relationship will give you so many opportunities to grow through that. And it's about choosing growth and choosing the team in those times. And through that, you can actually reach phase number 4, which is the deeper soul connection. And during this time, it's like triggers, conflict, arguments, all this stuff will still come up, but you work through it so much faster. And you are a solid team at this point. And you work through the triggers a lot faster. You choose love even when it's hard. All these moments can come up. You know that you've got such a strong team dynamic, and that can't be wavered.
100%. It's like all the tools that you've learnt throughout going through all of those 3 phases are now almost automatic in that 4th phase. Like I feel like
default.
It honestly is. It's like I know if there's any conflict that comes up, or sometimes my ego is still at play. If something in particular comes up, I just know that automatically, I know no matter what is said or how I feel right now, that this is our foundation. Like it's there's
secure
so much security, so much love, so much acceptance, and so much support. And just knowing that at the core, no matter how frustrated I am with you and how you wash up, or how stressed I am in a different area of my life, or it's like depending on my hormones of the month, like I just know that there's such a security here.
It's when there's no more walls left up. You don't feel the need to hide. You don't feel the need to defend yourself. You are just completely open to the other person and exposed. That way you can actually let the other person love all of you. Because so many people hide parts of them that they don't want to show the external world out of shame, out of fear, out of this, out of that. But when you can be fully exposed and realize, like, shame can only exist in the dark. As soon as it's brought to the light, it can no longer exist. And your relationship's the best place to bring that out, right?
I love what you just said. Sorry to interrupt there. Is what you said about exposed. Is like this definitely is the phase where you're fully exposed. I don't think you really emphasize how vulnerable that is. It's like, even if you feel like, oh, I'm fully exposed in my relationship right now.
There are layers to it.
Like what would you be mortified that someone knew about you? Like what's something that you're...
What's the last thing you'd want someone to know about you?
Yeah. and it's like, and then have that conversation with your partner.
And when you can bring that into the relationship, you get to feel love for that thing. You get to feel acceptance and reassurance. Then you no longer feel that thing about yourself. And you just, it just frees up so much energy and so much space in yourself when you no longer hold those things.
The word that comes to my mind is liberating. Not that I normally use that word, but I feel like that.
Liberation.
Yeah, it's liberating. But it really is, because you just get to, like, I know no matter what comes up, no matter what insecurity comes up within me, no matter what I'm feeling in this moment, I know that I can come to you and you're going to hold me with love and help me through the support the best that you can in those moments.
Yeah.
That I know that I'm not ashamed of something that's happened in the past or what you may think, because I know no matter what, you love me and you're choosing to love me every single day. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah.
And I know that you know that I would always do the same for you. And it's only getting to that phase 4 where you know that you're not going to be scared to bring up anything in your relationship, because you know there's security there.
Yeah. And I feel like getting to that point is so worth it. So it's so worth investing into the relationship, building that deep connection. So many people just live day to day in this shitty relationship where they don't trust their partner, they feel jealousy, they're getting triggered, they feel stressed out, they're overthinking, there's anxiousness. It's like, can you work on your relationship? Can you actually learn the tools to create that deeper soul connection and have that security? Like, your relationship is supposed to be a source of joy and growth, not a source of stress all the time. Like, sometimes it can be stressful, but most of the time it should bring you joy.
Yeah, especially there's a lot of messages and conversations that we have with clients that when they first come into us and share what's been happening in their relationship, that they're so scared to bring up things to their partner, or feel like there's no point of bringing up something to their partner because they won't reciprocate, they'll get defensive, they'll pretend like they didn't hear the other person. It's just so interesting just to see so many people just getting stuck at the comfort phase and not even realizing that if they both choose it, they can move into the phase 3 and then phase 4. And that's, I think, is the biggest thing, is realizing that you both need to choose the relationship for you to be able to move into phase 4, 3 and 4.
Yeah. That defensiveness has been theme of the week. Like, I talk to a lot of clients, I talk to a lot of people on Instagram, and I'm getting so many messages about defensiveness, especially women saying they can't bring things up to their boyfriend because they get defensive. They have this reaction. And it comes up so often. So I'd say that is a red flag. I think defensiveness is something we can get into next episode. Yeah. But for this moment, I'd say defensiveness is a red flag unless they're willing to work through it. So let's look at some green flags in a relationship. Do you have a green flag in mind that comes up straight away?
The first one that comes up straight away, also because we just spoke about it, is the biggest green flag, even when you're in a relationship or even in the dating phase, is them visibly choosing you every single day. It's like when I first met Charlie, even if it was through our first text message, from that first message, every single day after that, Charlie has shown me that he is choosing me every single day, whether it was in the dating phase and you were just messaging me, like, you'd always make sure that I just felt important. And I don't feel like that was your intention. It was just you genuinely were interested in me, and you showed me that. There was no games within playing that. You just showed me who you were, the real honest you, and you just chose me every single day.
Aww.
And then thank you. And then even till this day now, like, we appreciate each other so much, and you just show me every day that you are choosing me. And then in other people's relationships, when they are having disagreements and things like that, you can see, like, from the girlfriend's point of view, that their partner is still choosing them in those moments. And then there's other conversations that we have where it's like, can you honestly ask yourself, is your partner choosing you? And if they've disrespected you the whole day in every area of your conversation in life, maybe that's a massive red flag that they are not choosing you. And are you even choosing you or that relationship? Or are you just hoping that's magically going to change one day?
You're in a relationship with a fantasy. You're in a relationship with a vision that you've got for the relationship that you aren't even putting the work in to achieve.
Yeah.
Like if you've got this fantasy for the relationship and that's all you're holding on to, it's like, maybe he'll change, maybe she'll change, maybe we'll do better, maybe something will change. Nothing changes if nothing changes. You need to do something about it now. And like you said about choosing the other person every day, even with intimacy, like men get warmed up physically. It's very easy for a man to warm up towards sex. And then women generally get warmed up emotionally. So you need to be connected with the other person, build up that emotional intimacy throughout the day. And it's like, if you're the guy and you've pretty much ignored your girlfriend all day, then it gets to 7 o'clock, you've had food, you go to bed, and you're expecting sex. It's like, if you've not spoke to your partner all day, what makes you think that she'll want to have sex with you?
Yeah, like if you have dismissed her from the moment you've woken up and have just dismissed all her small little bids for connection, you have told her through your actions by ignoring her that you do not care about her emotions right now. You do not care about this, and this. And it's only until nighttime when you feel like, oh, it's a fun time to have sex right now.
Yeah,
but then
now it's convenient for me.
Yeah, it's like, but at that point, your partner feels so rejected by you because you've just spent the whole day ignoring her. So that's a really big one. Yeah. What's a green flag for you?
Yeah, so choosing your partner is the main thing. And I think emotional regulation is the biggest skill in a relationship. It is huge. Like being able to, when your partner says something to you, not get defensive, be able to hold yourself, be able to take criticism, be able to not react, realizing people act from triggers and insecurities, that it's not a personal attack on you. Yeah. So being able to hold all of that and emotionally regulate yourself is so, so important. How do you deal with stress? Do you bring external stress into the relationship? Like there's so many things around emotional intelligence and emotional regulation that people need to learn.
Yeah, and on that point, it's not only is that a green flag for the other person, like you see that emotional maturity and regulation in them, but do you have it within yourself? Because it is such, like that's one of the biggest things that you could, like assets of yourself, is for you to become self-aware and become emotionally intelligent, because that's really what's going to make such a great relationship. Yeah. Like we had a relationship check-in this morning, and that's why I said that I think our biggest celebration for the week is really realizing how, like re-acknowledging of how emotionally aware we are and how we're able to emotionally regulate each other, like ourselves.
And growing through that stuff a lot. Like a lot of people look at Mia and I and we're like, oh, they must never argue, must have no stress. They must this, must that, all perfect. They don't have stress like us. They don't have to do this. They don't get tired. They don't. It's like we have probably more arguments because we actually bring shit up than most people, but we just move through it so fast. Whenever anything isn't sitting right with us, we have the tools. We can work through it. We know we have such a strong security in our relationship. Everything's great. It's just things need shifting. And when you have that emotional intelligence, being like, I can work through this stuff, we can become better, we can move through it so fast, then your relationship grows so fast.
Yeah, if anything, Charlie jokes around of saying I bring up too much stuff, but also saying it in a joking way.
Any little thing, yeah.
It's like any little thing.
She lets me know.
It's like the moment something isn't exactly correct in the sense of like how we show up for each other in the relationship, I'm just like, oh, like I pull it up straight away, and it's the smallest things. And he's like, yep, okay. We're like, and then we move through that. And sometimes he's just like, it's such a small thing. However, I'm like, I could just see it. If I let it go once, it's going to get bigger or it's going to happen again. And it's like, I don't let anything slide. It's like the moment I see it, I bring it up being like, okay, no.
So many times I'm like, before meeting you, this is the type of relationship I wanted, where nothing gets swept under the rug. We bring things up straight away. We work through things. Sometimes when you bring things up, I'm like, fuck no. And I remind myself, this is what I signed up for.
Yeah. And I remind you that sometimes too. I'm like, you wanted someone just like this, so
deal with it. And that's a huge point on, you need to take someone as their whole complete self, not just the best parts. You need to take the ugly with the beautiful, like the things that come up. You need to be able to love the other person for their complete self. And that's a huge part of phase 4, seeing both sides of them. Like in the honeymoon phase, you very much see infatuation, where you only see the good. In the comfort phase, you might start seeing resentment, where you only see the bad. Then healing growth, like finding that balance, seeing both sides, awareness. Then deeper soul connection is like, I love you through all of it. You can show me anything and I love you.
The ugly, the messy, the horrifying, the
Yeah, and when you have
everything.
someone that loves you through all of it, it makes you love yourself through all of it. And that's the best part of a relationship, I feel. So that's definitely a green flag. So we said choosing your partner is a green flag. Having emotional regulation is a huge part. Do you have another one that springs to mind?
I feel like those two really sum up a lot.
It's very unique to each person what they deem as a
Yeah.
green flag. Hey.
I feel like because there's so many red flags like that. I remember, I think it was like around the time that we met, like maybe 2 years ago, that everyone's red flag list or their ick list
The ick
was
list.
trending so much on TikTok. And their ick list was so big. It was like, what if we all went into our notes and created a green flag list of all the...
What you wanted rather than what you didn't want.
Yeah, writing all the things that you did want. So I feel like the two that we mentioned were for every relationship. You want someone that chooses you, and emotionally regulation.
Yeah.
I think one other thing is respect. This is only because of what's really come up a lot in our client conversations this week. It's just seeing so many relationships where the person that's messaging us is being so disrespected that they're not realizing.
Yeah, they
It's
can't
like
see
when,
it.
like I just see it as if you're allowing someone to disrespect you, you are disrespecting yourself.
By not doing anything.
Because even when we just brought up that in the relationship, if there's a minor thing that I feel like we've agreed upon to show up as our best selves in the relationship, and I address a small thing, it's because I know that those are my values, and if I don't bring it up to you, I'm disrespecting myself. And that's really how I view if someone's disrespecting your relationship, if someone's disrespecting you within the relationship, why are you allowing it to happen? And if you let it slide without bringing it up or addressing it or setting that boundary, you're disrespecting yourself. And so
It's such a simple thing, but it often gets overlooked so much.
It's overlooked so much.
Actually
literally
respecting your partner through every little thing. Like, don't be a dick to your partner. There's so many people I speak to, I'm like, wow, why are you with this person? Why are you with this girl? Why are you with this bloke? Like, some people I message is like, or some people message me, hey, my partner still talks to her ex. She won't let me say otherwise. She works in a job where she slept with the other guy. It's like, fuck, it's just so disrespectful, so many people.
Yeah, I'm going to say, like, in most of the messages that I see or like the conversations that we have, there's so much disrespect, and it's sad that they've normalized it within their relationship, and they're probably surrounded by other friends that are dating similar guys or similar girls, and they're normalizing it within the friendship as well. It's like we really need to change that narrative of realizing when someone else is disrespecting you, hold that boundary and become aware when you're disrespecting yourself. So just respecting the other person is a massive, massive thing, because even in conflict sometimes when you are in conflict and your egos can get the better of you, and like you'll say a snarky ass comment.
Oh, it just feels so good though, hey?
Because it's like, yeah, a snarky ass comment. And I was like, oh, I feel so good. And then later on, like within like 2 seconds after that, I'm like, that was a really shit thing to say. That was just like literally just my ego doing that. Like it choosing to feed into my ego and say that shitty comment, and then realizing like okay, humble myself.
People would rather be in a shit relationship than not be in a relationship. That's what it seems like. Like, my partner treats me like this, he does this, she does that, but yet you choose to stay. And some people, the pain of a breakup would hurt more than the pain of staying in a shit relationship. Like, your brain will always choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven because it's so much certainty, right? Like, this is familiar, being treated like shit's familiar, I might as well stay here because this is the only certainty in my life, maybe. But like, respect yourself. What's the point getting into the end of your life and be like, I spent my life with a person that didn't respect me, and you've got another 40 years with this person maybe. It's like, are you going to make a change, or is this a life sentence that you chose?
100%. Do you have any other green flags? I feel like a lot of certain green flags can be personal, but the 3 that we said should be in every single relationship.
Yeah, respect, choose the other person, and be able to emotionally regulate yourself. And if you're not getting that in your relationship, where are you not respecting yourself? Where are you not being emotionally intelligent and regulating? So just see it in yourself. If you're not attracting the person you want, maybe you're not the person yet.
Exactly.
Great segue into the next piece.
Excellent. So normally we will read out the story. However, do you think I should just summarize it?
Yeah, you just summarize it if you like.
Okay. So this lady messaged through talking about how she is a stay-at-home mum for her daughter, which is 1.5 years old. And so she does all of the housework, looks after the daughter throughout the day, plays with the daughter, like educating the daughter, cleaning, cooking, all the household duties. And then the partner works a 9 to 5, and when he comes home, he really doesn't appreciate or he doesn't help with the household work. He doesn't help with any chores around the house or anything like that, which then really puts a big toll on her, because then she's not having her time to even like wind down or connect with her partner, because at nighttime she's still looking after the 1.5-year-old daughter and cleaning and cooking dinner and things like that. So after a lot of conversations between him and her partner, which she said that was literally took months of trying to get him to see how much work that she does, because he kept making smart ass comments, and that's my wording, smart ass comments, but making comments about how easy it is to stay at home and not do anything. She's literally not doing anything. She gets to have so much time off just getting to stay at home, and a 1.5-year-old doesn't take that much to look after or care for, which was his wording. And then she goes into, so that whole conversation of trying to convince him how much work she actually does at home to look after everything. That literally conversation was going on for months. And then it got to a time when she had to go to the hospital. She had an appointment at the hospital as a small day surgery. So her husband had to stay home and look after the 1.5-year-old daughter, as well as like clean and tidy the house. And when she got home, he had done so much in brackets, and he was absolutely exhausted, that once she got home from being at the hospital, he went to her and complained of how exhausted he was and needed a break. And she ended up going around the house and seeing the house was a mess and dirty and looked like hardly anything had been done. And that instead of him then realizing, only a couple of hours with my daughter and the house was a mess, he was exhausted. He felt like he had done so much, that he was cleaning the house, and as he was cleaning it, everything behind him was being just like undone straight away. And instead of recognizing, this must be what it's like every day for my wife, he was angry at her because she hadn't tidied the whole house, and he was angry at her that the house wasn't clean or prepared for him to look after the daughter or do things throughout the day. So what's your thoughts on that?
I think everyone is completely different, and everyone sees what hard work is. Everyone sees what is important to them. And as the man in this situation, he would see going out and providing for the family and doing work and working 40, 50 hours a week. That's the greatest service. And then he's got to a point where he thinks his girlfriend or his wife owes him something. Like, I deserve so much appreciation because of what I do. And he is blindsided by that. And he doesn't even see the work his girlfriend does anymore, his wife does anymore. So it's like everyone has different value systems of what they think is most important. He thinks providing and working hard like that is most important. And then he doesn't even see the hard work that his wife's doing, looking after the child. So it's so important to actually appreciate your partner for all the little things like that. And I think that's such a big problem where men do go out and work. And if the woman's staying at home and looking after the kids, a lot of people are like, oh, you're just a stay-at-home mum? Oh, that's so cute. Like, oh, that's so easy. Without seeing the hundreds of tasks that go into that every single day, how emotional that can be, how frustrating that can be, how many little things that people will never see that you do. And trying to explain that to your partner and not getting the appreciation must be so, so difficult.
And especially, it's like, this is a topic that you do hear a bit on social media, depending on what you're following. But it's not just we always hear that a stay-at-home mum is a real job, and it truly is. Like there's so much work that goes into it. But they also don't add in of like sometimes if you are only spending your time with like a 1.5-year-old and that's your only communication throughout the day, you're only in pretty much the four walls of your house, and you're just constantly doing the same thing day in, day out, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed. Even if you like waking up in the middle of the night, it's like you're not getting to leave that area. It's like when you are going to a 9-to-5 job, you're getting to get into the car by yourself and have that alone time by yourself to go to and from work, and then getting to interact with other people other than just the people that are living within those four walls. And I do want to just read her last sentence because I think this is the biggest part, what she was talking about. So when she first got home and the partner explained, like was annoyed of how messy everything was and how exhausted he was, he ended up blaming her for not being on top of everything and leaving everything for him, when in reality,
the child,
all she did was go to the hospital and have a couple hours away as she had a procedure done, and to then come back home. And yet he may not even, however, he wasn't self-aware enough to realize that that's what he does every single day, which is gets up and goes to work
for 8 hours.
Yeah, and then everything is left on her shoulders to do and to clean the house and to do everything.
Yeah, it's so important to be appreciated. Like, firstly, shout out to the men who go out to work every day and provide for their family. I think it's so important what you do. And growing up without maybe you miss a lot of things. You miss your child's first steps. You miss your child's first word. You can't take them to school. You can't go on the school run. Like, you miss out on a lot. And I fully understand men's side of how much you provide for the family. And you also need to see how much women do for the family as well. Like, or even all the little things. Like, we went to the shop yesterday, and Mia usually forward thinks of what we're going to eat and what we get from the shops. And then she was leaving it up to me. She's like, you have a go. Like, what should we have for the next few days? What should we eat? Can you forward think? Can you think of all these meals, get the ingredients, balance all this stuff out? And I was like, yeah, obviously. Then went to the shop and I found it so difficult. Like, there's so much crap looking at the ingredients, finding all these things, thinking about what we want, thinking about what the portion sizes that'd be. Like, there's so much.
Where it is in the shopping, like
where it is, yeah. Having to walk around, having to deal with so many people in the supermarket. It's like, I don't even think of that until yesterday. I was like, wow, I'm actually so appreciative of that.
I think our biggest thing, like within our dynamic, is like we do, like with breakfasts, it's like I believe I'm normally the main one that cooks. However, you help out a lot with cooking and like washing up afterwards. However, it's all that forward thinking of like I am normally the one 99% of the time. I would say it's thinking about what food we're going to have throughout the week and going to the shops and actually getting it to put it in the fridge. Once it's in the fridge, you help out a lot.
Yeah.
But however, it was just like in that moment yesterday where I'm like, I know that we don't have enough food to make a meal, like meals for lunch or dinner tonight. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to grab the things that I really feel like right now, and then I'm going to put the rest on you, or like just ask you, like, what meals do you reckon we should have this week?
Yeah.
And you found what was it? Like ingredient, the recipes that you were wanting. Then I'm like, okay, write a list of the things that we need to get from the shops then. Like, what do we already have and what do we need to get? And then just watching you go through the shop.
Try and be an adult.
And then I was like, oh, would you like me to help with anything? Like, yeah, if you can get the chicken. I'm like, okay, how much chicken would you like?
I was like, I don't know.
It was just like a nice realization on
how much you do.
Yes. In that area.
Yeah. Cool.
Like, I feel like we both really help each other out in those areas.
So in that story, if you were that woman and you were staying at home, you're doing all these chores and your partner didn't see you and always made these comments, like, how would you go about making a change there? What would you say to him?
Look, it's such the first thing I would say is actually sitting down and having a conversation on how you feel, which currently you feel unappreciated and not acknowledged for what work you are doing. However, within that situation, she had mentioned that she had been talking like expressing how she felt for months now and how much work she does. And rather, instead of encouraging or like trying to convince him of how much work you do, it's actually seeing the quality of those conversations that you're having. Because she made a statement saying that, oh, I've been telling him for months, trying to convince him of how much work I'm actually doing, that it's actually work that I'm doing here. However, sometimes, like, are you just making a one, like, or two conversations? And rather than actually having, sorry, that confused me. Are you actually just making slight ass comment and of trying to justify how much work you actually do? Or are you sitting down expressing like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, this is how it makes me feel when you make comments like that, because what I am doing is actually worth this many hours of work, and if we paid someone else to do it, they would be making X amount, and we're getting to like, you just spent 4 hours with our daughter and you felt like you were so exhausted and everything fell apart. And it's really sad that you didn't get to acknowledge that that's what I go through every single day. And yes, I enjoy it because I love spending time with my daughter and looking after our home. However, it's not appreciated when you undermine me on what I'm doing in the household.
It's such a thing of, it's hardly the message, it's how the message is delivered. Like, she wants to say that, but it can come out in such different ways. It can come out as blaming the guy, nagging him, being annoying towards him, like in a way that guys are just like, tell me straight up, like, what's happening? But because you express it maybe in a blame sort of tone, and it probably doesn't get received, and he probably gets defensive and he ignores it because he doesn't want to feel blamed, does he? Like, he wants to feel appreciated as well. So if you can come to that conversation like, hey, I really appreciate everything you do for us, and at the moment I'm feeling unappreciated for the work I'm doing. So when you come at it from that side rather than the blame side, then it can actually be received a lot better.
Yeah, and just then going back to the dynamic that you're both a team and bringing that up in the conversation as like, I believe we are such a great team, and that's why we originally he brought up the dynamic of you working your 9 to 5 and me getting to stay home and look after our daughter to spend more time with her. However, I feel like it's gone underappreciated of listing out all the things that you do throughout the day and how that also benefits him in his routine if he's having a hard time recognizing it. Because like, if he's like, don't do this, but if you stop washing all his clothes or stop cooking him food, like how much would that actually add to his plate? Just sharing that, don't have a protest behavior and do that.
Good on.
That you're both a team, as like just communicating that it's like, I help you out so much when we're cooking, when I cook our meals and when I clean up after like all the dishes, and when I'm constantly like, I'm thinking forward ahead of what we need from the grocery store and what we're eating throughout the week, and cleaning and making sure all your clothes are washed and ironed before you go to work. Like, getting to actually list out every single step and how that makes you feel, how that's helping them with their life and their values and how they see their routine, and breaking it down to that rather than just saying, I do so much for you, this is like a full-time job, without just saying that one statement without the whole description of it.
Yeah. I think this was a very productive episode. It's quite big. We just ticked over an hour, I think, as well. Just under an hour. So we went over how we met. That was a cute one, wasn't it? And then we went over the 4 phases you need to move through in your relationship. So the honeymoon phase, the comfort phase, through the healing growth, and to the deeper soul connection. And if you do want help with that, like a lot of clients come to us, they've been through the honeymoon phase, nice and easy. Then they start getting triggered. They're in the comfort phase. They want to grow, but they just don't know how. Then reach out to us on Instagram or go to the show notes below this and click on the conflict codes link, and it'll take you to the online program, which goes through all this stuff. If you're ready to transform your relationship, make sure you check out that program, and we would love to see you on the inside. And then we went over subtle green flags to let you know you found the one. That was so important, to actually see what's missing in your relationship and also what's missing in yourself. Like, how are you showing up? Are you showing up like the person you want to show up as? And then what happens when your partner doesn't see or appreciate your efforts? And now we'll round it off. What are you excited about this week, Mia Cherry?
I'm excited for our new podcast to come out.
Yeah.
I think I do get excited now for Mondays and getting to have the new podcast come out, especially with the people that do message us and be like, all right, just binge watched your last few episodes. Like, that's always a nice feeling.
Feels so nice, hey?
Yeah, because like the podcast is brand new to us still. Like, it's only been a month now. This is the 4th episode. And it's so nice to receive the nice feedback. So if you are watching this, do send us a message. It does.
Yeah, that makes it really good. Like when someone messages like, hey, listen to your podcast, couldn't stop listening. It was great what you're saying. I sent it to my partner. Like, that makes us feel so good. Like, ooh, people are listening to us.
Yeah, they give us the feedback. We love it.
Yeah, and on Instagram, I've done like 90 million views in the last 90 days. And a lot of times that can just look like numbers on a screen. But when people actually listen to the podcast and listen to us in depth and build that connection with us, like, we love that so much. We really, really value that. So shoot us a message. We'll always respond.
Yeah, then even with the people that have binge watched your content, when they send you a really nice message, it's like, we appreciate that so much. Like, it really does impact us in a great way.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you for listening. We're here every single Monday. Let us help you grow your relationship, learn the tools, send this video to your partner, talk about the podcast together, build that intellectual and emotional intimacy, and really start to make the changes in your relationship so that you can create one that actually brings you joy rather than stress. Thank you so much. We'll see you next Monday.
Bye, guys.